G'day everyone, I'm Jazza, and today I'm going to finally get to the bottom of what is inside the elusive alcohol-based marker. I mean, they're not elusive, they're pretty easy to find and get a hold of, but they're not easy to get inside of, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm doing this video for a couple of reasons. The first is these EO very cheap alcohol markers arrived in the mail 2 years too late. I recorded a video 2 years ago which I released, which was about buying Wish and eBay markers and putting them to the test. And yeah, apparently postage was something I might have wanted to keep more of. 2 years! 2 years! How does, oh my, anyway. But it did get me wondering, why are these and all of the no-name equivalents so cheap compared to Copic's? What is happening inside these things that makes this average $10 per marker and this, you know, 30, 40 cents. And then we have a nice middle ground marker, which is sort of a high-end mid-affordability marker, the Spectrum Noir Illustrator, which is right in the middle. I want to know if there's a difference between how efficiently they give you the ink through the nibs, or how long the nibs are on the inside, or how much ink is actually held and what the cartridge looks like. I'm dead curious, and especially because I saw Mira Byler's video where she did dissect a Copic sketch, so credit also is there because I partially stole the idea. Now, I know my opening gag had the table saw, and that was obviously incredibly dangerous and part of the fun of starting up a video with a bang. I don't think that would be an efficient or clean way to open these up. In fact, the video I did a couple of years back where, for April Fools, I did a how to blend Copic's tutorial where I literally put a Copic marker in a blender. And I recalled that when it went zoom, I expected there to be a lot more liquid, and it was sort of like fluff. It was really weird and surprising, but we're gonna get to the bottom in a much cleaner way today as to why that is the case. And although the table saw would have been much messier, I think a table saw of some kind would probably be an efficient way to do it, which is why I've got my little Dremel here, and I 3D printed, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I 3D printed a little Dremel holder. So in theory, this is gonna undo. Where's my little wrench? I need my little wrench. Fire? No. Fire? No. Why do I have so much fire stuff? That's what I'm looking for. Or is it that way? Righty top, lefty. I know it was right. I was doing it the wrong way. Of course I was. So one of these I think is like, oh, look at that. Look at it. There it is. Oh, look at that. Yeah, you thought the thumbnail saw looked dangerous. Look at this. This thing will mess you up. So the theory is you put your, am I meant to like, maybe I'm meant to, okay. Hey, that's cool. So this is negating this move, except I need to stabilize it because there's nothing to, we will get there. I like to do my videos by process of elimination. Figure out everything I shouldn't do on the way to figuring out how to do what I actually want to do. Get that watch time. This is my solution to make it incredibly safe and stable. Blue tack on a block of wood. You know how I know it'll work? Because I've got gaffer tape. Gaffer tape fixes and supports everything. See how stable this is going to be? Oh no, but then the mat. Let me just. I'm just gonna blue tack a mat down. And then the tape, because this thing. We're looking pretty stable. This isn't gonna go anywhere. Terrifying as ever. Can we just mini montage all the power tools I've used and how I react to using them? I'm a professional. I shouldn't keep it rolling while I'm moving stuff. That's a I am a professional. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I think we're going to work our way up in price. So let's start off with the cheapie and see if we're met with any nasty surprises. I want to actually do this as neat as I possibly can. Are you scared as I am? Okay, inside the cheap alcohol-based marker is this. We have quite a long chisel nib that goes into just a really basic sort of shell. I'm going to bring the white card over here and just lay this on top so you can see it really clearly. So we've just got the shell, and then inside we have the chisel. You can see that's quite a long stem, but it doesn't all go inside the ink here. It's just the little bit there, and I guess that stem just pulls it all up through there. Then we have the ink inside this, and look at that, just like a little door, we have the other end of the marker. So this is a separate piece of plastic to the shell, which is otherwise, like the whole pen, is just the one piece of plastic, and then this is inserted, which has the brush nib in it. And when I say brush nib, that's not a brush nib, is it? That's a bullet tip there. So it's really not soft, you can't get pressure sensitivity or anything like that. And I imagine brush nibs and brush tips are probably just more expensive to produce, so it's hard to get good ones in cheap markers. And I guess this is a case in point, because this is the same sort of material as the chisel tip, and it's not going to be particularly good to make art with, but that is what you get. So let's just, for the sake of experimentation, while we're doing this, let's open this up. Might use a knife instead. So it just catches on this stuff, it's like fluff. Hey, that opens up quite smoothly there. It almost looks like cotton candy. Like, it looks so dry, and yet you could just paint with this. But it seems like it should be a lot juicier. So, I don't know, maybe we'll find that the other markers are a lot more I think this is an interesting place to start off with, to just sort of compare the others to, because I'm genuinely interested to see, you know, if there's a lot more ink in this canister. There's quite a bit coming out here, but I did expect it to sort of have more. I guess if you did just use the marker to colour in a page, like with the chisel tip, and you were going like that, to colour in an area like that would be quite an accomplishment. So, you know, it's not the worst, but it's also surprisingly dry. So there we have it. This is our cheap and first marker. Let's move on to our mid-range marker. This is where this is starting to hurt a little bit, because I don't have, like, I didn't buy these for this video. I'm just wrecking my markers because I'm an adult. It's feeling loose. I think it's ready to give it a crack it open, do some crack. What? No. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. I think this is the old Illustrator series. I think the newer ones have the chisel and the brush nib. Again, very similar setup to the other one in that we have one main shell bit and then an inserted other shell bit, which it must be put together by making this bit first, and then they put this thing in there like that, and then they must go like to put that thing. That's how they make the markers. That is my deduction after this intensive experiment. The only thing I immediately notice is different is, I think, the density of this ink cartridge here. Just from looking at it, it seems more solidly constructed, and it just seems a bit darker and denser, but that I could be wrong there. Also, of course, we have a brush nib, which, as I mentioned, I suspect is just more expensive to produce. As you can see, you can get pressure sensitivity, and it's just much more organic to use. This one has a bullet nib as well. Just for comparison, this is the cheap bullet nib here in my left hand, and then the mid-range bullet nib in my right hand. It's smaller and a little softer, actually. The cheap big one feels quite rigid. The mid-range smaller one feels just a little more flexible, which is more comfortable when it touches the paper. All right, so now we have the ink cartridge. Let's do this right the first time. Oof, oh, it's already bleeding. That's a good sign. Very interesting right off the bat. It still looks a bit like cotton candy, and I guess that's just sort of how they contain the ink. But this is, as you can see, just denser in colour. Let's just see what happens when I put this down. As you can see, it's just got immediately a lot more ink. And the colour is just way better too. Like, you can actually see how it sort of spreads on the page as opposed to the cheap blue. We've got a lot more saturation and a really even pigment spread. Whereas with the cheap one, it's sort of patchy, blotchy, and less saturated. So to get a really strong blue, it's going to be a lot more work, a lot more ink, and a way worse result with the cheap marker. But then the mid-range marker, way better saturation and a lot less effort to get it down there. At least when you do it this way, which I don't recommend, let's be honest. Okay, so we've done cheap, we've done affordable mid to high level marker, and now we're gonna go the more expensive slash I guess you could say, industry standard, the Copic Illustrator marker. These are the favorites of illustrators, comic book artists, graphic designers, and usually YouTubers as well. This is the part that's gonna make me sad. Definitely cotton candy.
It's not his day.
Just don't make it that way. Does that defeat the experiment? Do I need to do this with another marker? I don't think I have a working Dremel saw anymore. Did it take everything out from inside? Yes. Look at that. No, I think I need to do another one. I can't leave this unanswered. I'm just gonna unplug this just to show that when you fiddle with these things, do it safely, he said after doing stupid shit with it. Don't try this at home. Is that my only saw? Is this salvageable? I think it's salvageable. Let's salvage it. It packs real tight around here. The experiment has extended to what happens if you cut a very fluffy cotton candy-like substance with a very fast-moving Dremel saw. You're learning so much today. Hey, at least this thing hasn't moved. All right. Let's try that again. One day I will be my own downfall. Today might be that day. But I'm gonna finish what I started. I'm gonna try this a different way this time. I'm gonna open it like a nutcracker. Hey, it's almost like I should have been doing it this way the whole time. How are we looking? How are we looking? We're looking good. We're looking good! All right, thank God! Now that's interesting. The brush nib is sort of like, I don't know if it's one piece, but it's got a weird internal shape. It's like really dense at the bottom here, and the top is quite spongy. Now, the Copic Illustrator brush nib is definitely the best thing about it. That's the reason why so many people use it. It's got a great flexibility, but it also holds its shape on the end so you can get a lot of fine detail, and it spreads ink really evenly. So that's really interesting to see that it sort of varies in density. You've got the spongy but still quite solid end there, and as it goes inside the marker, it's really dense, and it feels dense to the touch. It almost feels on the other end like the chisel, sort of really solid feeling. Is it one piece? Let's find out. I'm gonna cut this in half. It's like cutting thick cardboard. Hey, that is really fascinating. It is two different materials. You've got the same substance as a chisel. Maybe it's less dense, but it feels to the touch like the same substance. And on the end, almost capping it, is this soft, spongy material. And maybe that's how it holds its shape, is it's got like almost a skeleton. That is really interesting. I never knew that, and I never would have guessed, because I think you can pull the nibs out and you see one piece, and no one's stupid enough to cut their nibs in half, except this guy. You're welcome. Let's just see if there are any surprises with the chisel nib. I'm gonna cut this one in half too. I wouldn't say anything particularly surprising, like it is one sort of substance. It's not, you know, in several parts. However, the inside, as you can see, it looks a bit stringier, and the outside, I don't know if it's compressed or something, but the outside feels almost like a balsa wood, like quite compressed. I think that just goes to show that there is quite a bit of difference between these different levels. You are getting what you pay for between the different levels, and there is a reason that expensive markers are expensive, because I think there's obviously a lot of development and science that's gone into making them as efficient as possible. Now let's just look at the ink, and again, I think much like our mid-level ink, it's another step up in density. You can see that the color is immediately darker. These are on the surface level similar colors, or sort of purport to be. However, as you can see internally, the ink density definitely seems to step up with each variation. So let's open up the Copic Sketch ink. So on the right, we have the internal fluff, the color fluff, I don't know the technical term of any of this, of the Copic marker, and then on the left is the Illustrator Spectrum Noir. They both look pretty dense with liquid. Let's just see how the Copic draws. As I do this, I'm not noticing a huge difference between the amount of ink between this and the Spectrum Noir. So I think you get at least the same bang for your buck as far as how much ink is in either of those markers. I guess it's just sort of the quality of the ink and the colors, which is up for debate, and I guess everyone has their preferences, and that may be where some people prefer one color over another. But I do think, and it's worth pointing out, that again, the grade of the ink and the texture when it's put down is a step up from the predecessor. So compared to the cheapest ink, of course, there is less blotchiness and a more even spread on the Spectrum Noir Illustrators, but then with the Copics, with the full density, just slightly less blotchy again and slightly more saturation. So this is the result of today's massacre, and I have to say, I thought we might see some difference between the markers. What I didn't expect was how clear the distinction between the quality and I guess the materials in each of these. This is easily my favorite finding of today. I just think that is absolutely fascinating. I hope you found this as interesting as I did. At the very least, I hope you were entertained by the chaos. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, and I mean obviously you made it all the way to the end, there's got to be something in here for you. Make sure to hit that like button, and if you want to join me for future art and creativity shenanigans, subscribe for more fun with art and creativity. There are more videos over there you might want to check out, and let me know in the comments down below what experiments or challenges you want me to try in the future. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.